We can't just act without thinking anymore, Triss. They've been trying to teach us that all along. I guess if we're mages, we can't exactly be kids, can we? I am Jam, welcome to my channel, and here we are just throwing stuff at the wall. Today we are going to recap the events of Book 2 of the Circle of Magic series, Triss's book, or The Power in the Storm. Just days after the earthquake, as the four mages settle back into their routines, a new threat emerges as pirates seek to take advantage of the state of disaster. Real quick before I begin though, I'd just like to share my own weaving I made because I was so inspired by the magic of crafting and creating from this series. I taught myself to weave. I didn't have a loom on hand, so I tied some branches together and strung up some string and got to it. I've had it for 3 years. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Our book begins with Tristana Chandler waking from a nightmare about being trapped under the earth. The heat of the summer woke her, and she overhears voices on the wind. It's some dedicates talking about how they've run out of bandages in the storehouse. She runs into Deja, and they ask Lark if they can go onto the wall surrounding Winding Circle. Triss knows the breeze there is much more cooling. Briar and Sandry wake up just in time and tag along on the impromptu trip in the early morning. Up on the wall, Triss hears more voices on the wind. This time, the other three mages can hear the voices as well for some reason. The voices then kill someone before an explosion goes off on Pirates Point Lighthouse, silencing all the voices once and for all. Later that morning after breakfast, Rosethorn assigns Briar with weeding because summer is all about weeding. The water dedicates reach out to Lark. Triss tells her it's about bandages. Nico comes to take Triss to Bit Island, and Deja heads out to meet Frostpine for her own assignment. On Bit Island, Triss and Nico investigate the blast site. They both wonder what could have caused such an explosion. Nico then magics Tristana's spectacles so that she can see the silver-colored magic tied to the explosive residue. All magic for some reason appears as like silver. Then he channels her power to cast a seeing spell to see exactly what had happened. How the men killed the lighthouse keeper and how they all perished in the explosion. Nico tells Triss about blood magic, how it's fine to use your own blood in spells, but to use someone else's is cruel. He reminds Triss that she will not know peace if she ever decides to commit such an offense. Triss hears voices on the wind talking to a boy, something about being in place. Then Triss finds a baby starling, a baby bird. Nico tells her to head back to Rosethorn as she has experience with birds. With Deja, she is with Frostpine and his novice, Carol. They're on the beach outside Winding Circle, checking magic metal nets buried in the ground that protect the wall from pirates. It causes those who touch it to get lost in their own illusions. They're to bring them inside for repairs if needed, just in case of pirates. Deja can't help noticing a sailboat out of the corner of her eye, but when she goes to look directly at it, it vanishes.
Curiouser and curiouser.
Lark has just gotten back from the Water Temple storehouse, and they'll be needed to make more bandages. They go over to the loom houses, where Lark instructs Sandry on how to weave with magic. Their goal is to grow new bandages from old ones using threads that have been laid out. Lark emphasizes that it's not real weaving the way they're doing it, and then she places the pattern of the weave into Sandry's mind and they get to work. Triss arrives back at Discipline to find Rosethorn there. She had been busy helping with disaster relief, so it was a surprise to find her there. Rosethorn instructs Triss on how to properly care and tend to the baby starling. She sends out Briar to pick up some ingredients from Dedicate Gorse, the cook mage of Winding Circle. He has a kitchen in the hub tower. There, Briar gets the things she requested, as well as some snacks from Gorse that Briar eats in the stairwell of the tower. As he eats, he witnesses someone in what he assumes is a lame excuse for an invisibility spell. The person is covered in silver light.
Interesting.
Deja keeps seeing the sailing vessel all day, and eventually she tells Kirill, who tells Frostpine. Frostpine has Deja's sense for the ship with her magic, and she detects the worked metal aboard it, including weapons. Frostpine tells her and Kirill to gather the nets and bring them inside, because no one with pure motives would hide out like that. He believes it's a pirate scouting vessel.
Coincidence? I think not!
Back at Discipline, Rosethorn shows Triss how to prepare food for the starling and leaves her to it, as well as giving Briar the chores of refilling medicine bottles. Him and Triss get to talking about how she can see magic, and Briar realizes that their magic must have been spun together when Sandry spun them together in the cave during the quake, like how they all heard the voices on the wind, or how they're now seeing magic.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Then she gets to teaching Briar more reading and writing as they continue their own chores. Sandry is pulled out of her weaving by a cup under her nose. She drinks, realizing how much time has passed and the bandages laid out before her. Duke Vedris, her uncle, stops by. He was visiting Dedicate Moonstream, regardless to the recent rise in pirate attacks. He also fills in his niece on the news of the pirate queen Pauha, who has teamed up with her brother Enahar, a mage who studied at Lightsbridge, the same school that Nico went to. Academic mages usually study there, ambient mages thrive at Winding Circle. He tells her not to worry though, as no one has breached Winding Circle's walls in 400 years.
Sure about that? You sure about that?
After he leaves, Lark and Sandry are about to get back to work when a novice comes looking for Duke Vedris. Apparently Moonstream was looking for him. Later back at Discipline, Triss lets it slip that she can see magic, and Deja realizes that's what she saw. They'd interrupted by the arrival of a young man, Amory Glassfire, Triss's cousin. She is surprised to see him there. He tries to convince her to visit her supposedly dying father back home.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
She refuses, of course, but they're interrupted by the arrival of a novice announcing to Nico that all the crystals and scrying tools in the seeing room shattered all at once. Something that should have been impossible, because not even the magic-enhanced earthquake left so much as even a crack. Nico runs off to investigate. That night, Triss is woken when she senses a wrongness in the wind. She heads to the wall with Little Bear and spots a strange storm in the distance. It doesn't behave like any storm she knew, and when she pokes at the storm with her magic, she encounters an invisible barrier of some kind. She tells the guards, who believe her because she is the Weather Witch after all, and they call for warrior mages on the wall. Frostpine wakes Deja from her sleep in the hours before dawn. They're to inspect the chain that protects the harbor from unwanted visitors and reinforce it with magic. It's dangerous because the pirates' fleet, which they figured out is hidden behind the fake storm, is right outside the harbor. They travel by boat towards Tombstone Island and use the metal nets from earlier to shroud themselves. They begin inspecting, with Deja helping to sense for weak points, while Frostpine strengthens the metal with his magic. They're a third of the way through when a strange black box floats towards them. One is also headed towards Harbor Master's tower. Deja is told to imagine herself as a bellows and blow the box away, where it strikes its twin, bursting into a huge fireball. Shrapnel cuts open Deja's cheek and she hears Briar, Sandry, and Tristan in her mind, worried. Then she notices that the fake storm is gone and the entire pirate fleet is visible. As they're aiming more explosives, Deja and Frostpine hurry to get out of there. Frostpine works a powerful magical drawing on Deja's magic to do so. Tombstone Island is struck, as well as one of Emelan's guard ships just beyond Harbor Master Tower by more explosive. The two Smith mages arrive back at Discipline exhausted after working such powerful magic, where they're taken care of by the others. Now fully exposed, the pirates now show themselves as a threat to Winding Circle. Triss, Briar, and Sandry are woken up by visions of the explosion, and work together holding the thread circle from their earthquake survival to channel power to see what Deja sees. The ships, the fire, the dead bodies. They tell Rosethorn and Lark. Rosethorn says they'll need to stock up on medicines for burns. She also mentions that the nearby villages are coming to the temple for their safety. Lark, surprised at Sandry's sudden bounce back after such a big magical working, has her begin learning real weaving, making bandages by hand. Briar and Triss are sent out to Dedicate Gorse for food for Frostpine and Deja, to find Dedicate Moonstream and Nico and tell them what they've learned as well. They go to Moonstream first, and find her and Nico up on the wall near the south gate. They're joined by the first Dedicate of the Fire Temple, Dedicate Skyfire. He and the Fire Temple are in charge of Winding Circle's defenses. Triss tells Nico that the smell on Deja and Frostpine from the bombs was the same as the one on Bit Island. Then catapults on the pirate ships launch projectiles at the wall, but Triss summons a small tornado to stop them. Skyfire notices that the objects flew too high to be stones. Skyfire then has air and fire mages keep up magical defenses to prevent the catapults from striking with their explosives. Triss and Briar leave the wall and go to visit Gorse in the kitchens. There, they get into an argument with a random Dedicate who accuses Briar of stealing, and all three get kicked out by Gorse, who sends the Dedicate to run errands for him as he takes Triss and Briar's orders from Rosethorn. They wait in the hall as the kitchen is packed with visitors. Amory comes out, startled and annoyed to see Triss and Briar. Briar comments how strange it is that Gorse didn't give Amory a snack, and Amory replies, "Who is Gorse?" Which is odd since everyone meets Gorse. He's so friendly.
That's weird.
Gorse gives the kids their orders and introduces himself to Amory. Amory offers to go back to Discipline with them, telling them how crowded the dorms have gotten lately. He asks Triss if he can carry her basket, but she stubbornly refuses, explaining briefly how she had to do worse labor when she was with cousin Uriel. Throughout the day and night, the boomstones continue to explode near the south gate. In the morning, Moonstream calls for senior mages on the wall, meaning Lark and Rosethorn have to go too. They also explain regular spells versus great magics to their protege. Some of the spells we've done with you for the weaving spell, the spell Nico used with Triss to see what happened at Bit, the one Frostpine and Deja used on the harbor chain. Those are called great spells. Without a senior mage who understands great spells to guide them, young mages have been known to get so caught up in one that they die. They feed their magic and their lives into the pattern of their spell without ever realizing what they were doing. My best friend died that way 20 years ago, Frostpine commented, resting his head on his folded arms. He was building a lead pattern. It was to be a window in the shape of 1,000 petaled flowers, one that would hold and give off sunlight on the gloomiest days. He wanted to impress our master, and he burned up right in front of my eyes. Triss, Deja, and Sandry are to stay behind. Also, Amory was given a bed to stay in at Discipline, by the way. Rose Thorn gives Frostpine and Deja a concoction that replenishes their magical strength. She has Briar help her gather some things, and then they're out the door. Sandry gets their magic thread circle just in case they need to mind speak or something. On the wall, all the mages are arguing, but Lark is able to calm most of them down. Rosethorn uses bundles of seeds to grow a forest of thorny vines in front of the south wall. She uses Briar to help her as boomstones and battlefire, basically napalm, fly over their heads. They send their consciousness into the plant to get them to grow at a ridiculously fast speed. Every time battlefire lands on the plants, they can feel it through their magic. Briar calls through his mind for the girls, and they reach out, sending their minds into the pattern magic to help grow the thorns into a dense jungle, trapping several pirates within. They're forced out their mind link by their teachers in Amory. There are a few casualties amongst the fire novices along the wall. Dedicate Skyfire then orders a dense fog to be laid across the area. Back at Discipline, a tired Briar is brought in, and all four children are reprimanded for being so reckless. Nico comments it shouldn't have even been possible for them to force their way into Rosethorn's pattern magic.
Sure about that? You sure about that?
He was worried that he would find them dead when he got back. When Deja mentions the lumpy thread circle that combines their powers and how touching that lump gave her strength back, Nico demands Sandry give it to him. When she does, he drops it because of how powerful of a magical artifact it is. Rosethorn is finally brought in, and she was very much not happy about being carried there. I just realized Rosethorn is the grumpy one, and Lark is the sunshine one. The gang is tired the rest of the evening, barely making it to the Earth Temple baths. Briar sneaks out early to go through Amory's stuff, finding it odd that he packed like a poor person, yet all his items scream of wealth. He finds a mage's kit, a bottle of cinnamon and poppy oil half empty, and an also empty bottle of sleeping spell.
That's weird.
He also finds a scrying mirror and hears voices talking about how things are already in place. If all the scrying mirrors in Winding Circle broke, why is Amory still in one piece?
Coincidence? I think not!
Later, as everyone is settling in for bed, Briar confronts Triss about Amory. He tells her about his expenses and how it doesn't make sense for a student to have so much without an explanation. He suspects he was the invisible one in the kitchen and that he may be working for the pirates. Triss believes him. Having gotten to know Briar over the last few months, she trusts him more than any of her own blood. Rightfully so, I might add. She agrees to tell the others in the morning. That night, Triss wakes up around midnight and gets up when she hears someone downstairs. She goes to follow, noting how the person didn't bother turning on a light. She follows them outside and is joined by Briar. Triss uses her magic to clear a path in the fog to run, and they trip over sleeping people. Briar says Amory must have put sleeping potion in the food. Triss gets mad and blows all the fog away in a blast of wind. She even throws Amory against the wall around Winding Circle. She confronts him and he promises he can protect her from the pirates, not even bothering to deny his involvement.
You what?
As he goes to open the gates into the temple, Briar mind speaks to call for help from Deja and Sandry. Amory says the pirates are there to loot the temple for magical artifacts, books, and mages to sell into slavery. He says he owes a debt to Anahar, the chief mage of the pirates. His earring binds him to the mage. Briar throws a knife, but Triss knocks it away, still trying to understand why as someone bangs on the gate. Amory punches Triss, knocking her to the ground. Then everything explodes, literally sending Amory flying. Briar climbs high up into a tree. The pirates swarm in. The leader goes up to Amory and stabs him, killing him and telling him the deal's off. The pirates begin killing the drug sleepers, but then a hailstorm drops huge pieces on pirates and stops just as quickly. Then, before they can regain their senses, the leader is picked up by a rope of magic. The fire temple soldiers leap up and begin attacking. Sandry and Deja reveal themselves, and together the four form a magical circle of protection.
It has to be a circle!
Nico casts a blinding light, and then Lark and Frostpine reveal themselves when the pirates' clothes and armor and jewelry comes to life and begins attacking their owners. Soon the pirates surrender, but this was just a landing party. Triss finally sees Amory's body, and as she pummels his lifeless corpse, Sandry is the first to reach out to console her. Triss takes Amory's earring and the four head back to Discipline, where they spend the next 2 hours explaining things to their teachers and then to Moonstream and Skyfire. By then, the fog Triss had blown away had made its way back over Winding Circle. The next day, Triss is woken by her starling and she rushes off to feed it. Lark and Nico had already left. Rosedorn and Deja wake up as Triss senses the southern wind blowing the fog away. She tells them it has magic in it, and Deja touches her shoulder, which connects their magic so she can see what Triss means. Frostpine, Briar, and Sandry wake up not long after. Rosedorn takes Briar to the wall to repair the thorns that were damaged by the hail. Frostpine gets ready to leave to the north gate to help repair it. He leaves Deja with the task of net mending. He tells Triss she should be more firm with her winds and water. When he's gone, she practices making tiny twisters with flour on the table, but it's not going as planned. Later, she tries getting lightning to strike a spot on the spell net Deja is repairing. She gathers the lightning that naturally clings to her and is able to successfully fuse the metal wires a few times before Lark, Frostpine, Briar, and Rosedorn return. Later, Nico comes in with Dedicate Gorse, who delivers food to the hungry mages. Nico has brought some black powder, the stuff used in Boomstone that they got from one of the prisoners.
Somebody say boom!
Moonstream wants all the mages to familiarize themselves with the substance. Nico has the four students stand by their teachers and probe the black powder with their magic to see what it's made of. They come to the recipe of charcoal, sulfur, and potassium nitrate. As the teachers experiment some more to see how it explodes, boomstones begin raining down. One strikes the carpenter shop near the water temple in the west. Their teachers rush out to help, telling the children to stay inside the fence and not leave. They decide to distract Triss by seeing if she can control her lightning. Briar teases her until she is able to blast a heap of powder and make it explode. She then points at him to reprimand him, but he quickly grabs her hand. He reminds her that her pointing is a weapon and to be careful who she points it at. They all agree they need to get a better handle on their magics, Triss most of all. Deja and Sandry discuss how Triss's lightning seems to cling to her, and they agree to do more tests. They go to the leeward side of the north wall, and Briar and Sandry put up reed circles and cloth patches for Triss to practice shooting with lightning. It isn't going so well at first. She either can't make it go as far as she'd like, or missing by a hair. When Sandry asks about the thing Triss keeps fiddling with, she tells her it's Amory's earring. Sandry asks about the thread that connects it to something in the distance. Deja glimpses a magical wire, and they comment how it must connect to Anahar. When a boomstone begins falling towards the quartet, Triss blasts it with lightning. They take supper from a cart brought up from the hub, their teachers arriving freshly washed much later. The night brings bad dreams for the children. In the morning, they have breakfast with Rosedorn commenting on the starling having grown out its pin feathers and will soon be ready to fly. Moonstream arrives, giving Nico a kiss.
Interesting.
Before asking to speak with the adult mages. The kids are sent upstairs and Triss magics a wind to help them eavesdrop. The teachers discuss how they have 2 days of attack before the pirates breach their walls. They wonder if they should send the kids to Summersea for safety. Triss, having heard enough and fearing losing another home, tries to leave but the others stop her. She wants to go to the wall, but so do they. They also want to protect their home. Sandry says she can protect them with her magic like she did at the North Gate the other night. Triss asks to go to the bathroom and ditches the other three. They realize this and sneak out to follow her. Sandry uses her magic to track Triss heading to the south wall. Now that they're connected, she can see the thread that binds them. On the wall, Triss uses her wind to keep the guards away and casts a circle of lightning to protect her. Then she summons a cyclone and sends it toward the pirate fleet, but it can't get past their magical barrier. That's when Sandry, Briar, and Deja arrive. Sandry weaves her own magic circle to protect them, joining their magics like in the cave to strengthen it. Triss recalls her lightning, and together the four investigate the magical barrier for mage traps. They decide to use the cyclone to spin them together and throw themselves at the barrier to try and break through. Together, they shatter the shield and the funnel rushes in, destroying the ship. Briar glances back at their real bodies and decides to help shore up the defenses of Thorn as a landing party comes ashore. As Deja begins commanding the metal on the ships to fly loose, other mages on the wall begins helping aid the children. They manipulate the wood, rope, lanterns, and more on the ships. Someone is even able to ignite some of the black powder and causes an explosion. I like how these supposedly peaceful mages are ready to draw blood when it's necessary. And it is absolutely necessary.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Speaking of smiting, Triss uses the lightning she had conjured earlier and hurls it at one of the larger ships, blowing it to pieces. She was aiming for Anahar, hoping he'd be on the largest ship. But of course that's too easy, he's not on board, as when Triss returns to her body and checks the earring, it still glows with magic. She and Sandry combine their magics to track him when they notice the threads connecting all the pirate mages. Sandry points out that it forms a pattern, which means that Enahar is drawing on the magics of the mages. At the back of the fleet, they find him, far away from all the chaos. Sandry pokes at one of the points where the threads come together and gets trapped in a genjutsu. Deja soon joins her in the invisible net. Then Briar, in a moment of distraction, gets caught by the same black threads as the others, leaving Triss on her own. She's found the ship harboring the mage Enahar, but has to break through several more barriers to even get to it. When she does, Enahar mind speaks to her, warning her not to attack if she wants her friends to live. She begins trying to negotiate for her friend's release, but the mage won't budge, demanding she surrender. It's then that in her real body, she feels Nico press something into her hand. It's their thread circle, and he's specifically placed her lump in her hand. This is enough to strengthen the others enough to break free, but they're too weak now to fight. That's when they do the sensible thing and ask their teachers for help. The four teachers unite their magics with their students, forming a blade of magic to hack at the threads, joining the other mages to Enahar, leaving him powerless as Triss destroys his ship. The earring in Triss's hand melts as Enahar perishes. The rest of the pirate fleet attempts to flee, the connection Enahar had to all the mages having lost its power. Triss, too tired to magic back to her body, decides to ride the currents back to shore. There she witnesses the carnage of battle. Dead bodies and debris float among her. Some pirates are arrested, slaves are rescued. Some of the pirates get away from Duke Vedris, but he promises to go after them in the Battle Islands where the pirates generally come from. Triss asks Rosedorn to watch Shriek for her so she can volunteer in the infirmary to help tend to the wounded. She's been haunted by visions of the dead, people she was responsible for killing. Rosedorn agrees, telling her it's a thankless job. She provides her time and assistance. The whole time it's a smelly, disgusting job where pirate prisoners harass her and the rescued slaves stare into nothingness. Speaking of thankless jobs, some night after the pirate and the aftermath, Rosedorn gives Triss a box of insects to feed to Shriek now that he is ready. At first she doesn't want to do it, but her housemates help prod her along by showing her how it's done. Eventually she relents, feeding the fledgling a bug, and then everyone claps. First an earthquake, now a pirate attack. These kids are going through it, but at least they're not the only ones dealing with these issues. There are lots of people who were affected by the quake and the recent attack, and it's a perfect chance to see how the kids are feeling in regards to seeing others hurt and scared. They all have this righteous fury that overtakes them, but for different reasons. Sandry and Briar are both familiar with pirate attacks, Sandry because her uncle deals with them, and Briar because he's used to living among the seedier parts of a city. Triss, never having experienced an attack, still values her home and the people in it. Deja also has pirate experience, hard to live on the sea and not be experienced with pirates. This is also their first human enemy, and there are a lot of bodies before the dust settles. These kids will have to live with what they did for the rest of their lives. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, in my opinion. Also, I don't know if you are familiar with House of Night, but they have a similar circle casting thing going on, and yet here, with children, it's done 1,000 times better. PC and Kristen Cass could never. Let's continue the trauma train next time in Deja's book as we follow our kids on a trip to northern Emelan. I hope you're as excited as I am. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Give the video a like if you can and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next one. Bye!
Bye!